Is the Prime Minister going to last the duration of the Winter Olympics, which is due to finish 2 weeks today, the 22nd of February? The Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, has resigned today. A busy day of news, and privileged to welcome into the conversation my colleague here at LBC, Andrew Marr, who is presenter of Tonight's with Andrew Marr. You'll hear it, of course, tomorrow from 6, and Andrew Marr joins me now. Well, we have to start, Andrew, with Morgan McSweeney. I got in trouble earlier on for suggesting my mum and dad might never have heard of Morgan McSweeney, not being the political apparatchiks that we are, but they had. Why is he so important? Why was he so important to the Starmer project?
Well, he's a kind of political genius, is the first place to say, or an electoral genius at least. That's the question. Without him, I don't think Keir Starmer would have become leader of the Labour Party. He masterminded that campaign. And certainly without him, I don't think Labour would have the huge majority it has on paper today. Very, very effective campaigner, very much on the right of the Labour Party, cut his teeth fighting the extreme left in South London, as well as the BNP. A really formidable sort of street-level campaigner. And, you know, depending on who you talk to, he either decided that he had to save the Labour Party from Jeremy Corbyn and needed a candidate to do that, and alighted on Keir Starmer as his man, his front man, or else Keir Starmer looked around and thought, I need a really, really good politician. I'm not a politician, I'm a lawyer. I need a good, clever guy, and that guy was Morgan McSweeney. In private, the most eloquent exponent of Labour Party politics I've heard for a while. Very, very persuasive, very eloquent. But his problem is that everybody believes he's the Machiavel, the dark artist behind whatever's going right, or in this case, going wrong.
Yes, he is portrayed as a sort of Svengali, as you say, Machiavelli type character. With him now gone, and there's been a general consensus that he's key to the Keir Starmer project, and indeed Keir Starmer was key to the Morgan McSweeney project. Does the Prime Minister have a chance for a sort of reset? Is he unshackled in a way, or is this his right arm being effectively chopped off?
In life, there's always a chance. You never quite know what's round the corner, Henry, but I think it's over for Keir Starmer. I would not be surprised to see him resign quite quickly now.
Potentially, next few days? You're referring to the next week or so?
Yeah. I mean, no one knows. It depends very much on his own state of mind. We read that I've not spoken to him, but we read that he's both very, very angry and depressed and so on. So he's feeling in a mercurial mood. You can never tell what somebody in that mood's going to do. But I think if he decides to dig in and carry on, it's going to be an utterly miserable experience for him. And I think he must be thinking there has to be a way out.
I was reading Jason Cowley in the Sunday Times today, who was saying that Keir Starmer feels misunderstood, and that was the same place in which Gordon Brown found himself, where he thinks he's sort of misunderstood by the electorate, and you never really recover from that point.
I think that's true. I've said before on LBC, and I'll say again right now, I think Keir Starmer, whatever else people think, I think he's a decent man who came into politics very late in life, comparatively, for the right reasons. I don't think he's in it to enrich himself. I don't think he's corrupt. I don't think he's the kind of person who in a million years would be found around a swimming pool with the likes of Epstein and Epstein's girls or anything like that. I think he's a decent guy. But politics is also a very, very hard trade. It requires eloquence. It requires a wily understanding of other people. It requires a vision. And I think he was never remotely a good enough politician to do the job he's been called upon to do.
Those leadership rivals, much spoken about, the likes of Angela Rayner, the likes of Wes Streeting, there was a sense, and I've heard it on your programme throughout last week, that the time wasn't quite right. We've got the tax affairs with Angela Rayner, Wes Streeting. It just didn't align. The stars didn't align. Has this sped up the process, do you think?
It has, and it's very complicated now. There are so many moving parts, so many people thinking, maybe it's my turn. You know, all sorts of people we could spend all afternoon talking about them all. I think that the sensible assumption is that there will be a left-wing candidate, probably Angela Rayner, and a more right-wing candidate, probably Wes Streeting. And the problem the Labour Party now has is, you put yourself in the position of being Kemi Badenoch. May feel strange, stand back, pretend you're Kemi Badenoch. You're looking at the Labour Party right now, and you're wondering about who you're going to face next. If it's Wes Streeting, the Angela Rayner outriders and teams and briefers are already saying, he's far too involved with Peter Mandelson, he'll be no good. They're making all the arguments that she will need to make in due course for her. And on the other side, the pro-streeting people are saying, Angela Rayner would take us straight into a crisis in the bond markets. She hasn't got the gravitas to be a big international figure. Never mind the HMRC thing. Do we want to go from one scandal straight on, et cetera, et cetera? So the danger for the Labour Party is, as this competition to replace Keir Starmer gets going, everybody is making the arguments that the opposition parties will then pick up and use against whoever wins.
You spoke earlier on today, I was listening to you talking about the governance in the UK effectively and whether it's too difficult. And actually, when the Tories were complaining about this for years and they brought a lot of it upon themselves, I did have a sort of scintilla of understanding. And now it's become clear that it's extremely difficult for whoever the occupant of number 10 is. Is it simply too difficult to be Prime Minister in this day and age, do you think, Andrew?
Well, we can't think that because we need Prime Ministers.
Well, quite. We can change it.
We have to find a way through somehow. I think it is hard. It's always been difficult, and I think it's harder now than it has ever been. And that's partly because of the impact of things like social media and AI speeding things up. It's partly that Britain, like so much of the rest of the Western world, is in economic relative decline. We don't any longer earn enough as a country to give us the kind of social services in the world that we think we deserve. And so we're angry and cross and a bit scared about the future. It makes it very, very hard indeed. You need somebody, as I say, who's got the eloquence, who's got the toughness, who's got the political chops to do it. There are very few of those people around. And the Labour Party, I suspect, is going to have to find another one, or try to find one, very, very fast indeed.
And then lastly, Andrew, we have these crucial elections, the by-election coming up later this month. We have the May elections across Scotland, Wales, a lot of England, those that aren't cancelled. But for any potential leader that comes in now, would it be better for them, actually, for Keir Starmer to absorb the shock of those potentially devastating results?
Yeah, and it may very well be that people are going into him and saying, do you know what, Keir, for the sake of the country, stagger on for a little bit longer, absorb all the grief and the grime and the ordure, and let somebody else take over in happier times. But you never get to choose the moment that these things happen. And I just feel that where we are now, it seems very, very hard for Keir Starmer to get up on Monday morning, put his tiny shirt on and go out and be, in any sense, a proper Prime Minister for the week ahead.